There's a town in West Virginia where Wi-Fi is illegal, microwaves are banned by federal law, and if you try to use Bluetooth, a man in a truck will literally drive to your house and find you. And that's not even the weirdest one on this list. A coal town with 4 residents that processed more freight than Cincinnati. A Swiss village hidden in the Appalachian Mountains that burns a man in effigy every winter. A maximum security prison built directly on top of a 2,000-year-old burial mound. A town called Booger Hole where 12 people vanished and the locals formed a mob to figure out why. By the end of this video, you're going to see West Virginia very differently. And trust me, you're not ready for number 1. Starting at number 10. Hurricane, pronounced hurricane by locals, because saying it the normal way gets you side-eyed at the gas station. Population about 7,400. Median home price $265,000. A normal little town about 30 minutes from Charleston, until you find out it's named after a storm nobody can confirm actually happened. The accepted origin is that early surveyors found a stand of trees bent over in one direction, like a hurricane had ripped through. Except hurricanes don't make it to landlocked West Virginia. Ever. Either a tornado got mislabeled by someone who'd never seen one, or the trees were leaning for reasons nobody bothered to investigate, and the name stuck for 200 years. Imagine telling your insurance agent you live in Hurricane and watching them quietly raise your rates while you explain there's never been one there in recorded history. Hurricane proves something beautiful. Sometimes a town's identity is built entirely on a clerical error nobody ever corrected. If a town named after a weather event that didn't happen is strange, the next place was named by people who couldn't agree on anything. Number 9. Odd. Yes, that's the name. Odd, West Virginia, located in Raleigh County. Population under 800, tucked into the mountains south of Beckley. Median home price around $115,000. Here's how it got the name. According to West Virginia tourism records, residents gathered to officially name their town, started arguing, went through every suggestion on the table, and somebody finally said the whole situation was just odd. Everyone agreed. The name stuck. They filed it with the post office. That's the entire origin story. A town named because the founders couldn't stop bickering long enough to come up with anything better. Most towns invent some heroic settler or river name and pretend there's meaning. Odd just looked in the mirror and said, "Yeah, that tracks." Odd is proof that the most honest name is usually the weirdest one. But Odd isn't even the strangest name in West Virginia. Just up the road, there's a place where 12 people disappeared and nobody ever solved it. Number 8. Booger Hole, an unincorporated community in Clay County. Tiny, folded into a holler so remote most maps don't bother labeling it. The name Booger in Old Appalachian English means a ghost or a goblin, which would be charming if it weren't earned. Between 1897 and 1917, around a dozen people died or disappeared from Booger Hole under circumstances that were never explained. According to the West Virginia Encyclopedia, the deaths included a 23-year-old named Preston Tanner, after which residents formed something called the Clay County Mob to hunt down whoever was responsible. Newspaper headlines from 1917 literally read, "Clay County, citizens formed mob to clean out lawless Booger Hole." A vigilante mob in a town called Booger Hole, trying to solve a 20-year string of murders. The killers were never officially identified. Outsiders avoided the town for decades. One stonemason got so tired of the violence he packed up and moved, and some historians think he's the one the town is named after. Booger Hole proves something unsettling. Sometimes the weirdest names aren't trying to be funny. They're warnings nobody bothered to take seriously. And if a town with 12 unsolved murders sounds bad, the next one was officially nicknamed after how it makes people feel. Number 7. Scary. Population about 200, an unincorporated community in Putnam County. The kind of place you'd drive past without noticing if the road sign didn't. Literally say, scary. The town is named after Scary Creek, which sounds like a haunted attraction, but is actually the site of one of the earliest battles of the Civil War. On July 17, 1861, the Battle of Scary Creek lasted about 5 hours and ended in a Confederate victory. The grandfather of General George S. Patton, yes, that Patton, was seriously wounded there. So now there's a town named Scary, home to a couple hundred people who all live with the daily mild humiliation of writing Scary, West Virginia on every Amazon shipping label they order. Scary proves something charming about West Virginia. Sometimes a battle nobody remembers gives a town a name nobody can forget. But there's a town further north where the weirdness isn't in the name. It's in what's buried underneath. Number 6, Moundsville. Population about 8,100, located on the Ohio River in the northern panhandle. Median home price around $110,000. A small post-industrial town with a Walmart, a couple of pizza places, and a downtown that's seen better days. Now look across the street from the old prison. There's a hill, 62 feet high, 240 feet across. It's not a hill, it's a tomb. Built by the Adena people between 250 BC and 150 BC, the Grave Creek Mound is the largest conical burial mound in North America. 57,000 tons of earth moved by hand 22 centuries ago. Now here's the part nobody talks about. The West Virginia State Penitentiary, which operated from 1876 to 1995, was built directly across the street from the sacred mound, partly using stone quarried from land the Adena considered holy. Nearly 1,000 inmates died inside that prison. 94 men were executed. Imagine being a city planner in 1866, standing across the street from a 2,000-year-old sacred burial site and saying, "Yeah, this is where we should put the murder building." Somewhere, an Adena ancestor is rolling their eyes so hard they're causing minor earthquakes. Moundsville proves something fascinating. The weirdest towns aren't the ones with strange names. They're the ones built on top of things they should have left alone. And speaking of leaving things alone, the next town is so isolated, the federal government legally forbids you from bringing modern technology into it. If you're enjoying this video, hit like, mostly so the algorithm stops recommending videos about lawnmowers, and subscribe, because learning about weird towns might accidentally save you from moving somewhere boring. Number 5. Green Bank, population 143, tucked into a valley in Pocahontas County. The closest gas station is miles away, and it's illegal to use Wi-Fi here, or Bluetooth, or regular microwave, or anything that creates radio interference. Green Bank sits at the center of the National Radio Quiet Zone, a 13,000 square mile federal restriction zone established in 1958 to protect the Robert C. Byrd Green Bank Telescope, the world's largest fully steerable radio telescope. The dish is wider than a football field, and it's so sensitive it can detect a signal weaker than a trillionth of a watt. A single spark from a spark plug can contaminate hours of astronomical data. Within 10 square miles of the telescope, wireless devices are banned. Outside that, even your home Wi-Fi router requires federal approval. There's a guy whose actual job is driving around in a diesel-powered detection truck looking for unauthorized signals. And the strangest part? People move here on purpose. A small community who believe they suffer from electromagnetic hypersensitivity have relocated to Green Bank to escape modern signals entirely. Their neighbors are radio astronomers searching for alien life. It's the only town on Earth where your weird neighbor and the SETI researcher are technically working toward the same goal. Green Bank proves something genuinely strange. The quietest place on the planet is the one trying hardest to hear the universe. But if you think a town with no Wi-Fi is isolated, the next one has 4 people in it and used to be richer than Cincinnati. Number 4. Thurmond, current population 4. The least populous incorporated municipality in West Virginia, buried inside the New River Gorge National Park, accessible only by a single lane, bridge that crosses the railroad tracks before climbing the hill behind town. But in the 1920s, Thurmond was a coal and rail empire, 15 passenger trains a day, 95,000 travelers passing through annually. More freight moved through Thurmond than through Cincinnati or Richmond. 2 hotels, 2 banks, a 4-story commercial district. The Dunglen Hotel across the river became nationally infamous. Ripley's Believe It or Not reportedly claimed it hosted the world's longest poker game, 14 years straight. The hotel burned down in 1930 under suspicious circumstances, and the town's decline started the same year. When the railroad switched from steam to diesel in 1949, Thurmond's depot stopped being useful. Today, only 4 people live there. 6 of the 7 residents once ran for elected office at the same time because somebody had to. Imagine moving to a town where your odds of winning the local mayoral race are mathematically better than your odds of finding a roommate. Thurmond proves something haunting. Sometimes a town doesn't die. It just gets too quiet to notice. But the next town didn't die. It got weirder. It hit an entire European country in the mountains. Number 3, Helvetia. Population 38, tucked into a remote valley in Randolph County, accessible only by winding mountain roads where GPS stops working and cell phones don't get signal. The town's website literally warns you to download offline maps before driving in. And when you arrive, you're in Switzerland. Helvetia was founded in 1869 by Swiss-German immigrants who left Brooklyn together because the Appalachian Mountains reminded them of home. They built Alpine-style buildings with painted shutters. They opened a restaurant called the Hütte that still serves bratwurst, rosti, and Swiss cheese. They kept speaking German for generations, and every winter, the entire town gathers for Fasnacht, a pre-Lent Swiss festival where locals carve grotesque masks, parade through the streets at night carrying lanterns, square dance for hours. Then, at the stroke of midnight, drag an effigy of Old Man Winter out of the community hall and burn him on a bonfire while screaming at him to leave. The town has 38 residents. Fasnacht draws over 800 people. The festival got so popular, the video game Fallout 76 added a virtual Helvetia to its map, which only made the real Helvetia weirder, because now tourists show up looking for a town that's been hidden in plain sight for 150 years. Helvetia proves something beautiful. The weirdest places aren't trying to be weird, they're just refusing to forget who they are. If a Swiss village in Appalachia is strange, the next town built its entire identity around a creature that may or may not exist. Number 2, Point Pleasant. Population around 4,000, sitting at the junction of the Ohio and Kanawha rivers. Median home price around $100,000. A quiet river town with a Revolutionary War battlefield and a state park. Until November of 1966, when 2 young couples drove past an abandoned World War II munitions plant called the TNT area and reported seeing a 7-foot-tall man with wings and glowing red eyes. Over the next 13 months, more than 100 sightings were reported. Then, on December 15, 1967, the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Ohio collapsed during rush hour, killing 46 people. Locals connected the 2 events. The legend of the Mothman was born. A 12-foot stainless steel statue of Mothman now stands in downtown Point Pleasant. There's a Mothman museum. Every September, the town hosts the Mothman Festival, which draws tens of thousands of people who dress up as a giant moth. A community of 4,000 built an entire economy around a possibly imaginary cryptid that a couple of teenagers saw near an old explosives plant in 1966. The Mothman became real because enough people believed in him to pay admission. Somewhere in the woods near Point Pleasant, there's a confused cryptid wondering how he accidentally became a small business owner. Point Pleasant proves something powerful. The weirdest thing about a place isn't what happened there. It's what people refuse to stop believing happened there. And finally, number 1, the one I've been telling you about since second 10. The town that doesn't sound real, doesn't look real, and is somehow still on the map. Number 1, Pickens, population 56, population 56, located deep in Randolph County, about 10 miles down a winding mountain road from Helvetia. 1 general store, 1 church. There is, allegedly, a road. Pickens is the kind of town where the annual highlight is the Maple Syrup Festival, which began in 1973 and draws thousands of visitors to a town with 56 full-time residents. For one weekend every March, the population multiplies by a factor of 30, and the entire town becomes a syrup-themed traffic jam. But here's what makes Pickens genuinely surreal. The town once had a brick schoolhouse, a hotel, a doctor, a railroad station, and over 1,200 residents in the early 1900s. It was a logging boomtown. Then, the timber ran out, the railroad pulled out, and the town just emptied. The hotel is gone, the schoolhouse is closed, the railroad is gone. 56 people stayed anyway. And every March, those 56 people host a festival big enough to be mentioned in national travel magazines. The math, if you run it, is roughly one resident for every 45 festival goers. Imagine hosting 45 strangers on your front porch every spring and somehow doing it cheerfully. You'd last 4 hours before pretending you didn't live there. They've done it for 53 years. Pickens proves something quietly miraculous about Appalachia. The weirdest towns in West Virginia aren't the ones with monsters or burial mounds or bans on Wi-Fi. They're the ones where 56 people refuse to let the place die even after the world stopped paying attention. That's not weird. That's stubborn. And in West Virginia, those two words mean the same thing. If you enjoyed this list, hit like, mostly, so the algorithm knows people still care about weird geography, and subscribe, because learning about strange small towns is a surprisingly effective way to avoid moving somewhere boring. Consider it a life decision prevention strategy. I'll see you in the next one.